investment promotes more growth, and then you go through that circle again. To conclude, Kiran, when we came to office, tax GDP ratio was 9.2, today it is 13. What does that mean? We have mobilized more resources. When we came to office, the savings and capital ratio, the savings and investment ratio was 24 and 26. Today it is 35 and 37. So we have mobilized more resources. We have invested it in India. Some of those investments have not been optimal, but we have invested in India, and you will find that all this translates into growth as we go back. I'm happy of what we've achieved. I'm not entirely proud. I'm happy that we have achieved so much. We could have achieved more, but as I said again, whether a government can achieve more or less is entirely in your hands. Thank you. Moderating.
Before we actually move to our next step, before we actually move to our next step in the format that I had shared with everyone in the beginning, I have to make this confession that we, the Express Group, has taken the view from outside with the author to various cities, not only in India, but overseas. But I have to say, I've never seen Mr. Chidambaram in this element before, and so engaging, and completely, different and absolutely honest. So this is all, I think, a reflection of, the huge, I think the seating capacity of this hall was only 250, and we actually have a gathering of 350. So Taj, our hospitality partner, is just running around to organize more tea and more cookies for the evening. So please don't go without it. And I have to, because unfortunately we are, running short on time and it's a constraint, we will have 5 questions from the audience. And one more thing I want to say that fortunately we have Mrs. Chidambaram here, and she was visiting Bangalore only for work, and she's also going to ask one question. So it's going to be 5 plus 1. Okay, I would only request the audience to be very short and very crisp, and please ask very. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Could you please also introduce yourselves and tell us what exactly do you do?
Sure. Sir, I am Nisha Gupta, and I am doing my Probationary Officers Program with ICICI Bank here with IMA, Manipal University. So, the question I would like to ask you is, as you said, our GDP growth is 9.4%, and the average is around 9% we have reached. But sir, out of that 9%, how much our agricultural sector is contributing in that? As we are comparing our country with China and other countries. Sir, but is it okay to compare our country with others? We are not focusing on our strength. Agriculture is the strength of our country. 65% people, they live in agriculture sector. The agriculture,
What is your question?
So sir, out of the 9%, agriculture growth is hardly contributing in our growth. So what we are doing for the agriculture thing? We are just doing lawn waivers, providing money to people.
You want to answer your own question?
No, sir.
You have asked your question.
Sir, only giving money, passing bills in the parliament for the people, for the welfare of the people in rural areas. Sir, let me come to the question. Only giving money is not a solution, but the final solution for the agriculture people, for their development and growth.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say something which will, with the first blush, will be hugely unpopular. No country in the world can sustain 60% of its people in agriculture. No country can. In fact, our land is overburdened by people. We have to wean farmers away from agriculture into industry and to services. But in the context in which we are, we find ourselves where roughly 55% of the people are dependent on agriculture and 60% of the workforce is dependent on agriculture. And our agriculture is a peculiar structure. Small farm holdings, largely grain-fed. I've given you all that before. Therefore, agriculture in this country, at best, can grow only at between 4 and 5% a year. Whereas industry has a capacity to grow by 10%, 12%. Services has a capacity to grow by 10%, 12%, even more. When two parts are growing at a much larger rate and one part is growing at a smaller rate, there's elementary arithmetic, so the pie of agriculture, the GDP will be small. Today, agriculture's share of the GDP is 17%, and it will shrink, not because we wanted to shrink, because the other two parts are growing at a much faster rate. Therefore, the long-term answer to agriculture, like every other country in the world, is to wean large numbers away from agriculture into industry and services. The short-term answer is for you and me to agree to pay the farmer more for paddy, for wheat, for sugarcane, for edible oil, for vegetables, for fruit. To give him a better price. That is the only short-term answer to the farmer.